Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Do you want to know the 5 mistakes that a lot of, kind of bad players are making on DraftKings and what you can do to avoid making mistakes like that? Then this is the video for you. I have a whole lot of videos in our How to Win on DraftKings playlist to help you make better lineups, to use optimizers, what you should be doing, how to upload lineups and edit lineups from optimizers onto the site. But I see people making mistakes all the time. I talked to an awful lot of people over the years about DraftKings and about building DFS lineups, and I'm faced with basically answering a lot of the same questions over and over and trying to correct people and tell them, look, instead of doing that, maybe try to do this. So this is where the inspiration for this video comes from. So hopefully it helps you out. And if it does, consider dropping a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
We're going to start in the DraftKings lobby. Tip number 1, mistake that a lot of people make is game selection. Everybody chases the highest game in terms of the total prizes. Everybody wants to play in the biggest contests. Everybody wants to win $1 million, myself included. I always want to play for the biggest money and the biggest prizes. However, I'm in a different state of my bankroll than a lot of other people are based on my history playing this game. So if you're a newer player, you need to find the games that fit your bankroll and find the games that fit your level of play. There's been a lot of chatter over the last few years, 3, 4, 5 years specifically, that cash games are dead, that you can't play head-to-head games, that you can't win at head-to-head games, that it's a waste of your time. You're not going to make money playing them. And I wholeheartedly disagree for a very specific subset of the DraftKings ecosystem. If you are a small to medium bankrolled player, and I'm going to define that for the sake of this video as somebody who is routinely on a Sunday main slate on DraftKings who has $20 to $500 in play. If that's you, you should be playing cash game. You just should. There's no reason for you to be GPP only. It's too easy to build a lineup. It's too easy to build a lineup that is going to be better. Now, people are going to get bent out of shape by this, but I need you to hear my explanation before you do. Small bankrolled players are not bad players. However, there is a greater percentage of bad players that play at low stakes, and there is a much greater number of bad players in total, as there are more low stakes players than high stakes players when we think about playing on DraftKings. So if you can take advantage of the head-to-head lobby, and I would post games, not on Madden streams, but I would post games at the $1 and the $2 level. Higher stakes players are not going to mess around in that range. You can post as many as 50, I believe, at the $1 price, and same at the $2, same at the $3. If you're playing tens of thousands of dollars, you're probably not trolling around at the $1 range and $2 range, but it's very valuable to you as a low dollar player. If you've got $50 in play, and you're going to use $25 of that on $1 head-to-heads against all different opponents, which you can do on DraftKings. So if you post those games, you can limit an opponent to be able to take one of your posted head-to-head games maximum. You're going to get exposure to 25 different opponents at $1 and still have enough money to spend on some GPPs to give you a shot at winning more money. So avoiding those $1, $2, $5 head-to-heads, game selection, bankroll management, massive problem at the low to mid-tier stakes. You should be allocating some of your spend towards tournaments. Obviously, if you have, if you're a $50 player, I'm just using that as an example, you're not going to be taking a shot at the Millionaire Maker, right? I mean, most weeks when it's $20 or $25. Usually you're going to sit around in the $4 tournament. This is a 20 max entry tournament. Sorry, this is best ball. Let's go to NFL. If you're spending $50, you're not going to be spending on the Millionaire Maker. You're definitely not going to be playing the $4,000 entry fee or the $100. Find the games that fit your style of play. Now, I can't tell everybody how to play because I don't personally know you. I don't know what you're good at. But your game selection should fit the things that you're good at. And if you have not tracked your bankroll and don't know where you win, I would suggest that you do that. But having some exposure outside of those head-to-head games to maybe 3 entries in the play action or 3 entries in a smaller game, maybe the slant at $9 if you're a little bit larger bankrolled player, and then supplementing the rest of that with limited field games. When I mean limited field, these are large fields: 29,000, 198,000, 28,000, 47 million in the however many it is. You can go and find games that have a field size that are 100 and down. You can find these 100-man games in the lobby that pay out very well, and you really only have to beat, they're limited entry, 1 to 3 entries usually on both sides, DraftKings or FanDuel, and it gives you a chance. It's much easier to beat 99 other lineups than it is to beat 999,000 other lineups. You have a better chance of coming out on top, and you also have the lottery aspect when you enter those larger field, 3 max, 20 max fields that have like 100,000 up top. So you're giving yourself a chance at reaching the big money, giving yourself a chance to win multipliers on your money in these 100-man games, while also having a really solid floor with your low games. So the one thing that people are doing is they're not picking the right contests, they're not managing their bankrolls well enough, and they're not finding out where they win. So like knowing where you're going to hit and hitting there is huge. Tip number 2, stop undervaluing running back targets. That is just massive. Like, we talk about touches all the time, right? I'm really hyper concerned with volume, but the volume can be different when you look at it at the running back position. Now, I know Derrick Henry got more targets last year than he had gotten in any other year before, but like, people love Nick Chubb. He is a hyper talented running back. Even on days where he gets a lot of volume, it's really not coming in the passing game. And if we look at a couple of things, one, from 2017 to 2021, if a running back gets 25 plus touches, they're way more likely to get over 25 DraftKings points. But this can be skewed, right? So like, sure, if a guy gets 25 touches, kind of like this game, right? Like right here, he got 23, he got 24, he got 16. This game, he had 17, he had 3, that's 20, he had 30 points. That's great. Big touchdown expectation from him. But when so much of that value is tied up on the ground, every target is worth like 2.3 expected fantasy points versus every 1 carry. So you want to get players that project to get a lot of targets. But like, how are we going to do that while still avoiding other players? Because like, I know where this is going to go. So you're saying that we should be, picking players like Nyheim Hines and JD McKissick and James White, who's retired. But like, no, that's not what I'm saying, because snap count matters. If you've ever heard my videos before, you know that I value running backs who have a high volume of snaps and touches on their team. Notice that starts with snaps. So finding a player who's going to get you 20 possible touches like Saquon Barkley, 20 possible touches like Austin Eckler, with inclusion in the pass game, but a heavy dose on the ground, enough. 10 to 15 carries is really all you need if they have that 15% of the target market share on their team. It works. That's really all that you need to have, because when we take a look at this, based on that graph that I showed before, if you break this down, right, those 25 plus touches that kind of showed us that 50% of the time they get over 25 points. If they have 3 to 5 targets, they get over 25 points 42.5% of the time. If they have 25 touches and over 6 targets, like 68% of the time, they are over 25 points. So the higher correlation with higher scores really comes down to how many targets these running backs get who are also getting good touches. You can get over 35% of the time a running back with 6 plus targets but only has 20 to 24 touches gets you over 25 points. 20% of the time from 3 to 5. Even if you get the lower touch guys like Chase Edmonds, right, who was on the field and getting like 10 carries and like 5 targets a game, 4 or 5 targets a game, 21.5% of the time that sort of running back is scoring you over 20 DraftKings points per game. Doesn't matter if they're the favorite, whether they win, whether they're at home. There's obviously different projections and percentages and chances for that. But realistically speaking, we just want the carries and we just want the targets. And it's why somebody like Christian McCaffrey has been so valuable. So if you can find those running backs at a little bit cheaper price, like DeAndre Swift at $6,800, Aaron Jones is another player in that range, Harris at $6,400. These are all week 1, 2022, but like, it carries all the time. Picking a player in that range like Josh Jacobs, picking a player in that range last year like James Conner before the injury, James Conner's point expectations before that injury last year: 0 targets, 0 targets, 1, 2, 1, 2. Like, when you win, what did you win? He had 2 touchdowns. You barely broke 20 points. And he had 20 touches in that game. Find you the guys who are playing a ton of snaps and getting a ton of targets. Stop undervaluing running backs who are getting targeted out of the backfield. Tip number 3, stop playing your optimized lineups that are based on median projections in tournaments. That is the quickest way to finish in the 55th percentile or 60th percentile in tournaments and win absolutely no money. It is the quickest path to losing. Tournaments are not about playing medians. It's not about points per dollar. There is a whole lot more in play, right? It's about maximizing value in your cash games, but not in tournaments. Tournaments are more about correlation, ceiling, and theory. If you watched my Saturday video every week last season, it was very easy to find the players. Usually there was a high price player like Jonathan Taylor. There was one week where he was projected to be under 5%. I don't remember exactly which week. I think it was against Buffalo, to be honest. He was on the road. It was against Buffalo because he smashed. He was on the road. He was really expensive. People didn't like him. Buffalo's a tough defense. They were underdogs. He was under 5% in tournaments. Was there an under 5% chance that Jonathan Taylor would have 20 to 28 DraftKings points that day? Hell no. He also had a tournament winning day that day. Find the guy that people aren't playing that may not have the best points per dollar. Points per dollar only matters for cash. So, don't make that mistake of simply avoiding the good players. It's also not as simple as, well, just play the good players. Justin Jefferson was another guy who was on that list early in the season where his salary was really high, but nobody wanted to play him because his salary was really high and people were avoiding him. And he ended up having a really good game for you that day. So find those leverage plays in tournaments instead of just hitting optimize and entering that in a tournament. Number 4, not using correlation and understacking when it comes to GPPs. It is very hard to pick a random lineup that is going to get you the 220 to 250 points that you are going to need to finish in the top 1% or win a tournament on DraftKings. If a quarterback is isolated, a running back, 3 wide receivers that have no business dealing with one another tight end that doesn't flex its individual, you have to be right about 8 different things in this lineup, and you have to hit on the defense as well. It's much easier to use stacking. Whether you're going to use a single stack or a double stack, that's up to you. I advocate for double stacks because I understand that people don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. Well, the aren't you worried crowd. Aren't you worried that if the stack doesn't go off, you're not going to win? Don't you worry about putting all your eggs in one basket? No, I really don't, because in cash games, that's not what I'm going to do. But in tournaments, I'm playing for all the eggs. I want to win every egg possible. So putting all of my eggs in one basket is not a problem to me in tournaments. Going with a Patty Mahomes stack, this is for any week, not specifically week 1 of 2022. Patrick Mahomes, Juju and Travis Kelce does a couple of things. Sometimes these salaries are a little bit out of whack, and it allows you to pay up to be contrarian without being stupid. Also, matching these players with somebody on the other side where there's a push and pull effect on this lineup allows you to get access to, if this game shoots out, all I need to happen is that game to shoot out. I need one thing to happen. If that one thing happens, this lineup is already in a better place, and I've occupied 4 of the spots. If there's 70 total points scored in this game, I've occupied 4 of the spots out of the 9 that I need in this lineup with one thing needing to happen. I have to be right one time to win at 4 spots in theory. Same thing goes for your secondary stack. If you're to try and build a secondary stack, picking 2 players from an opponent on one game, say I have Justin Jefferson on Minnesota, and then let's bring it back with Allen Lazard, just 2 random guys, right? These players are correlated with one another. The wide receiver 1 on team A is correlated with the wide receiver 1 on team B. If one does well, the other will do well. If Justin Jefferson has a big game and scores a couple of touchdowns, that means that Green Bay is going to have to throw to keep up pace, and it's going to allow you to have access to all of those additional targets in positive game script situations. Same thing goes for Green Bay. If they score a lot of points and Aaron Rodgers throws for touchdowns, Allen Lazard, being the wide receiver 1, should be on the receiving end of something there. And then on the other side, if Minnesota's in positive game script situations, that too would correlate. So not correlating your lineups, not stacking your lineups in GPP is a major mistake. And I understand that sometimes it doesn't work, but just because the winner of a tournament, and people look too much at the winner, right? Well, you know, the winner in the Millionaire Maker this week, out of the 500,000 lineups that were in there, Al, he didn't stack his lineup. So do you think stacking is viable anymore? I most certainly do, because the easiest way to win a tournament is to get a higher proliferation of your lineups. If like I play 150 lineups in the Millionaire Maker, if you're playing 20 max, if you overweight the highest 1%, if your lineups, 1% of the field is going to be in the top 1% of lineups, but if 5% of your lineups are in the top 1% of the field, you have more bites at the apple to finish all the way up on top. And all that takes is one event. If you get that 120-yard touchdown, that late catch in a game, one of your players gets a run that puts them over the bonus and gets you that extra 3 points on DraftKings. That's what wins tournaments. But in order to win that tournament, you have to be in the position to win that tournament. And overweighting the number of top 1 percentile lineups is the easiest way to be in position to catch that one play at the end. And the fastest way to get more of your lineups into the top 1% is through extensive lineup correlation with primary and secondary stacks. So a huge mistake is when players just eschew that and think that they can outthink everybody in the field at 9 different spots in their lineup. You're not going to do it consistently. Every once in a while it'll happen, but it's a huge leak and a massive mistake in tournaments. Tip number 5. This one kind of goes along with number 4, bad players overstacking their lineups in cash games. You should not be playing your cash game lineups in tournaments, and you should not be playing your tournament lineups in cash. You need to separate them. Okay, now if you're talking about a leagues lineup, like those 100-man games that we were talking about before, that's kind of a cash game lineup with a little added correlation to give you a chance at the top while still having a floor, because those 100-man games are going to have a lower total score, and that's kind of a hybrid between cash and tournament. It's a cash game lineup with added correlation. But cash game lineups, as I mentioned earlier, are about maximizing your point per dollar per each position. Part of that maximization comes down to you maximizing opportunities, touches, targets, and the combination of both at running back. Your quarterbacks in cash games, sure, you could pay up for Patty Mahomes, Justin Herbert, but the running quarterbacks are the ones that are going to dominate when it comes to popping in points per dollar models and projection sets. Guys like Lamar Jackson and his rushing ability gives him that massive floor plus a ceiling. Kyler Murray is another one. Jalen Hurts spent the entire first half of the year last season as the QB1 because of his rushing ability. Anytime a quarterback runs the ball 8 to 12 times a game, pretty much on average, you're getting a massive floor. About a half a touchdown, that's worth 3 points. And the 40 to 60 yards that they can gain on the ground gives you 9 points before they even throw a pass. Maximizing that as well as their ability to complete passes is going to probably put them in position to be a cash game quarterback, because cash games are more about floor than they are about ceiling. So putting yourself in that position is extremely key. But like I said, people want to end up playing that lineup that we talked about. Well, I really like Justin Herbert this week. I think they're going to score a lot of points. And if Justin Herbert does really well, then I should probably have Austin Eckler. And I should also probably have Keenan Allen, because he's really good. If all of them are a points per dollar salary, if all of them are popping in the model as some of the best points per dollar plays at their position, okay. But that seems like it would more be a salary pricing mistake by DraftKings rather than a lineup strategy. So yeah, sometimes that could happen if there are multiple injuries and there are mistakes in pricing. But realistically speaking, you want to focus your cash game lineups around floor of points and opportunities per dollar, which usually translates directly to median projection points per dollar. Tournament lineups are more based on ceiling. Cash game lineups are more based on floor. You need to operate accordingly and build lineups separately for your head-to-head games that we outlined in number 1 and your tournaments that we outlined in number 3 and 4. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helped you. If it did, drop a like on the video. Leave me a comment down below with a mistake that you think you've been making in your games and that you would like to fix for this next season. Look out for another video right there.